we're going to take a look here at a very popular technique I see a lot, which is adding a texture onto a photo. So here's the texture. Here's the photo. Now, the very first thing you need to do is you need to have a texture. I'll go over a couple ways. First off, you could take your point and shoot or DSLR camera out there and just shoot textures, open them up into Photoshop. The other one would be to go to a stock photography website. I grabbed one off of Fotolia.com. You can actually see the number if you wanted to use the same one. iStockPhoto.com has a lot. Just do a search for textures and you'll find more than you can possibly imagine. And they only cost a couple of bucks. So it is, if you're crunched for time, that's a good way to go. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to select all on this image here. I'm going to copy it. And then we're going to jump over onto our photo and we're going to paste it in. All right, and it's going to come in on its own separate layer. Now, the idea is, and what a lot of people will do is try the opacity setting and just reduce the opacity, but that kind of just looks blah. What we want to do is we want to make the texture interact with the photo more, and that's where these blend modes can come in really handy. So most of the time, I'm going to go to overlay. That's kind of my go-to blend mode. Some of the time, I'll also go to soft light because overlay, you can see, is really gets kind of bright, where soft light does kind of the same thing, but it's not quite as bright. But I think I kind of like overlay for this example here. A couple other ones that work are screen and also multiply. All right, so if I had 4 blend modes that I use the most, it's multiply, screen, overlay, and soft light. Those are probably the 4 that I'll use the most, but we'll stick with overlay for this example here. All right, now the next thing, and we could be done at this point. If you like the effect, you could totally be done at this point. What I'm going to do is just double click on this layer. It's going to open up the blending options here for the layer style dialog, and we can kind of tweak this a little bit. If you look at these blend if sliders here, if I start to move these sliders, I'll start to drop out a color in the texture. So if I move the white one, I start to drop out the white. It just leaves the dark stuff. If I come over here and I move the black one, it starts to drop out the dark stuff and it leaves the white stuff. Same thing, underlying layer, it starts to drop out stuff that's dark from that texture, and the other one starts to drop out stuff that's white. So it does it in a very heavy-handed way. The idea here is we hold down the Option key on Mac, Alt key on the PC, and you click on that slider and it splits it. And that gives you a very smooth kind of blended way to start to drop out parts of these textures. So I think it's got too much bright area inside the middle here. So what I'm going to do is hold down Option or Alt and then split the white one. And you can see it starts to drop out some of that white in the middle. And try it on the bottom one too. You can drop out some of the darker stuff. All right, and you can come over here and you can drop out some more of that white. Right? And just experiment with the different effects here. Like I said, blend mode, change it to overlay. Is overlay always going to be it? No, it depends on the texture. It all deals with whatever texture you put on the photo. So multiply actually looks pretty cool here. And if I were to come over here and drop out some of the dark areas with multiply, maybe even go on the bottom layer here. All right, and drop out some of those dark areas, multiply looks pretty good. Screen kind of looks pretty cool too. It's a very faded look, but screen looks good too. Again, overlay is the one that I go to the most. But once you combine that blend mode with moving these sliders around, you can really get in there. You can fine tune the texture that you're going to put over the photo, and it just gives a photo very kind of a worn, almost faded type of a look to it. It's a very popular effect. I see it all over the place these days. Hope you enjoy, guys. My name is Matt Kloskowski. We'll talk to you again soon.